Significant content. That's Ubisoft's grand solution after a year that saw their revenue take a nosedive worthy of an Olympic sport. And after a string of failed releases that would make a lesser company simply unplug its own life support, their big solution, unveiled in their May earnings report to investors, is just to release significant content. Not better games, not creative revival, not we've remembered why people actually play this stuff in the first place. No, significant content. Basically, they're about to drown the market in a tsunami of their finest 6 out of 10 games and pay influencers and games media to pretend they're amazing, because quantity is all they have left in their creatively bankrupt arsenal. And meanwhile, a handful of devs who escaped Ubisoft's creativity crushing machine just launched a masterpiece that's embarrassing their former employer on the global stage. So Ubisoft's financial year for 2024 wasn't just bad, it was someone called the financial crime scene investigators type bad. If this company were a patient, the doctor wouldn't be writing prescriptions, they'd be calling for an exorcist. Net bookings, the money they made from overall game sales, down over 20%. That's over €500 million just vanished in 1 year. Revenue down 17.5%. Their profit flipped from a €401 million profit in 2023 to 2024 to a €15 million loss. That's not a dip, that's diving headfirst into concrete without a helmet. Then their stock collapsed 26% in a single day, erasing over 500 million in market value faster than they can announce another forgettable open world chore simulator. It's the biggest drop in a decade. It's not a correction, it's a cremation. But Ubisoft's solution to this financial colonoscopy: more games, more of the same, more. Because when you've completely forgotten how to make something good, your only option is just to make more slop. So while Ubisoft's financial Titanic was still actively sinking, a 30-person studio, Sandfall Interactive, staffed by Ubisoft escapees, released Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And it wasn't just good, it was a mic drop heard across the entire industry. 92 score on Metacritic, 2 million copies sold in 2 weeks, genuine innovation, actual soul, made by people who left Ubisoft because, and I'm quoting them directly here, they were bored. They fled from one of the biggest game publishers because watching paint dry offered them more creative stimulation than making the 17th Assassin's Creed. And they created one of this year's best games, if not one of the best games of all time, critically, while their former employer was busy releasing things like Skull and Bones, a game with the development timeline of the Great Pyramids and the gameplay depth of a puddle. This isn't just embarrassing for Ubisoft, it's a public execution of their entire business philosophy. This wasn't just one bad year for Ubisoft, it's a pattern of creative rigor mortis. Just look at Assassin's Creed Shadows, their flagship franchise, delayed multiple times, so much controversy, dropped in the low 80s Metacritic purgatory, the gaming equivalent of a participation trophy. It's not terrible, it's worse than terrible, it's forgettable. But it did sell 3 million copies, we now know. But that's nowhere near enough for them to even break even at this point. And even Clair Obscur has it beat there. It's a $200 million yawn factory that players put down and forget about. And then we have Star Wars Outlaws, possibly the most powerful entertainment license on the planet, and they turned it into a 4.9 user score. Or Skull and Bones, this one deserves its own documentary series titled How to Burn Money, a masterclass, because it reportedly cost up to $850 million and took 10 years of development, 5 delays, was only kept alive by the Singaporean government subsidies that made it literally illegal to cancel it. It's not a game, it's a decade-long financial hostage situation in pirate drag. This isn't a slump, this is corporate brain death being kept alive by financial life support and shareholder delusion. The true disease killing Ubisoft isn't just bad financial decisions or poor execution, it's the formula, the sacred, untouchable Ubisoft formula that's been copied and pasted across their entire portfolio with the precision of someone who's forgotten how to do anything else. And we all know it by heart, a map so massive it has its own gravitational pull, littered with more icons than my desktop, side quests so formulaic you could train an AI to generate them in seconds, and completely devoid of any memorable moments. And that's just the gameplay. The storytelling follows an equally rigid formula. Start with an intriguing setup, then immediately bury it under 60 hours of checklist busywork, create potentially interesting characters, and then give them dialogue written by a committee more concerned with focus groups' approval than actual human emotion. The Ubisoft game development flowchart has exactly one decision point. Is this exactly like their last 12 games? If yes, ship it. If no, add some more icons to the map and try again. So when Ubisoft promises significant content, this is what they mean. Not more innovation, just more icons. Not better experiences, just bigger maps. Not meaningful gameplay, just more mindless tasks. And now contrast this with Sandfall's approach to Clair Obscur. They didn't start with a spreadsheet of engagement metrics or a focus-tested checklist of features. They started with a vision, an actual creative spark that wasn't immediately smothered by marketing concerns. Sandfall's CEO described their game in terms you'll never hear in Ubisoft earnings calls. He said there is a lot of joy and sincerity in how they made the game. We have soul in this game, all of us poured into the game, nothing left. Joy, sincerity, and soul. These aren't KPIs, you can't track them on a quarterly report, but they're what separate games people remember from games people endure. The irony is that Ubisoft used to know better. They used to take actual risks, games with distinct personalities and creative courage. Games that felt like they were made by humans for humans, not algorithms for wallets. But that Ubisoft is dead. It died the moment they realised it was more profitable to make the same game 20 times than to make 20 different games. It's not sudden, it's a slow hollowing of the core, a gradual replacement of creative passion with corporate process. And it starts innocently enough. A successful formula emerges like Assassin's Creed, it's replicated, it works again, the shareholders are happy, then it becomes standardized. Templates are created, processes are documented, creative decisions become risk calculations. Innovation becomes a bug, not a feature. But then the exodus begins. The most passionate, creative people, the ones who got into game development to actually make something meaningful, eventually hit their breaking point. They get bored, they want soul, and they find it elsewhere. What remains then is just a culture that thinks adding more checkboxes to the activity list is the same as adding more depth to the experience. And then when they're cornered financially, they make deals like bringing Tencent into the fold. Big investment partners want big, predictable returns, meaning even more pressure for mass market, analytics-driven content rather than creative risk. It's a death spiral. Make formulaic games, lose money, need investment, investors want safe bets, make more formulaic games, repeat until bankruptcy or acquisition. And meanwhile, Sandfall's 30 people focused on one thing, making something they'd actually want to play themselves, not checking boxes, not maximizing engagement, just creating an experience with actual meaning. And they embarrassed a company with 21,000 employees and billions in resources. It's not about budget, it's not about team size, it's about remembering why games matter in the first place. The success of Clair Obscur, alongside games like Balatro, Palworld, and of course Baldur's Gate 3, signals a market that's starving for genuine innovation. Players aren't just buying these games, we're actually evangelizing them, creating massive communities around them, and sending a clear message about what we truly value. But Ubisoft's response to all of this is double down on what's not working. So after a financial year best described as setting money on fire while screaming into the void, Ubisoft's grand strategy is significant content. This is the desperate bankrupt giant trying to fill the void with more of the same mediocrity that created the void in the first place. What this means for the future of Ubisoft, time will only tell, but with over 500 million euros down the toilet in the last year, it's not a good place to be. This isn't just about Ubisoft anymore, this is about every studio that still thinks more equals better, that formula equals fun, that players won't notice when they're being treated like walking credit cards rather than human beings with functioning brains. Well, we noticed, and our wallets are finally speaking louder than any earnings call.